This time on the inside track, Dave, who is a musical associate of mine as well as a good friend, writes this or asks this question. How do you see the musical landscape changing in response to the influx of independent artists? Well, actually, the independent artist, to me, hasn't had, if this is what you're looking for in your question, I don't think in itself it's the independent artist that has changed the industry so much as the advent of the internet and social media, MP3s, digital media as well, CDs and so forth. And why I say that is because when you think about it, and we may be using the term a little loosely here, but we all start out as independent artists when you think about it. The goal is to get our music out there, sell it, create a buzz, as it were, the word in the industry. And hopefully the goal used to be to get the major labels to recognize you because, remember the days of selling CDs from your trunk and so forth, and, cats selling thousands of CDs, and that would put them on the radar. So you'd get that interest from the major labels, and hopefully the end goal is that you were signed to the label. So it's those other things that have really had the bigger impact on the musical landscape, which are tools in the toolbox of the independent artist. Because when you think about it, the independent artist has always been, at least in the mind of the major label, a friend of the major label, or at least a benefit to the major labels, because that was the pool that they were drawing their artists from. So with the independent artists having this newfound power, I mean, it's not so new anymore. It's been a decade or so, at least, that all of these things, this new technology has come about. It has allowed for more musical freedom, which we see represented more so on the internet. There's a lot of new music out there, people experimenting, doing different things. You have to search for it. It's not right in your face, as it were, but you can certainly find it, as opposed to the radio. You'll never hear these things on the radio. So that's one of the benefits, and that's one of the things I see perhaps growing even more going forward. And so that's pretty much what I see the trend being in the future, that the independent artists will continue to grow, and hopefully, there'll be a balance, because the industry is still kind of in this flux right now where the major labels are suffering because of this, the decline of CD sales and all of those different things. All of this has had an effect on that. So, there's definitely a place for them. There's a need, I believe. They obviously, at least in my mind, in my opinion, they hold a standard to which the industry really should be held to and should be working towards. There's been sort of a lack of standards with people just kind of jumping into this industry and not really doing their due diligence in terms of homework and learning the trade and learning instruments and so forth. So while there's a lot of good stuff out there, there's also a lot of bad material out there as well. So that need for the major labels from that standpoint, and also in terms of that global recognition, just the advertising power that they have, all of those things are great tools. But if it could be made more independent artist friendly, that the artists aren't dictated as to what they should look like, what they should sound like, and everybody's kind of a clone of the previous artist, that would be good. And so hopefully we'll see that, with this power struggle that we're seeing. And that's kind of where I see it continuing until there's some sort of balancing out, or either one prevails and the other fails. That's where I kind of see it going in the foreseeable future. So we certainly appreciate that question. We look forward to more questions. So if you have a question in mind, we look forward to hearing it here on the Inside Track.